The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
All right, well, our old sort of friend Milo Yiannopoulos is back in the news. I don't know how many of you remember Milo Yiannopoulos. How do you even describe who Milo Yiannopoulos was? A right-wing gay guy who is also Catholic, who would sort of deflate a lot of the homophobic attacks against the right by saying he's gay and he's welcomed by the right. I believe it was sort of ridiculous because he was just seen as a useful tool for the right to be able to point to and say, look, we accept gay people as long as they have all the right opinions. Like, for example, it's bad to be gay, which was Milo's opinion about himself all along. He's been a guest on this program. He suffered through a lot of, I guess, bans from different platforms because of his hateful commentary. He now is back after a big fall from grace for appearing to sort of play coy with relationships with underage boys. I'm not saying he necessarily defended it, but the comments were certainly bad enough that many platforms said no more Milo. He's now back, and it might just be an attempt to remain in the public eye, but he says that he has successfully gone through what is sometimes called, and it's disgusting, conversion therapy, so-called conversion therapy. He has been converted. Essentially, he's saying he's been cured of being gay. He is now part of this ex-gay community. Do you even buy this? I mean, like, I know that we don't believe the idea of you can be talked out of being gay. You could be talked into suppressing what are your sort of natural preferences. But I know I'm not asking whether you believe in quitting homosexuality. Do you even believe he believes this, or do you think it's just publicity?
I find it hard to believe, but the thing is, it's really not for us to say. I mean, it's only Milo who can tell us what his sexual orientation is. It's not up to us or our assessments on it, but it does seem to me like a desperate attempt for attention because I feel like Milo's star peaked around 2016, 2017, and then ever since he effectively got canceled, we haven't really heard too much from him except for like these occasional news stories. So maybe this is his way to try to get back into the limelight and also try to rebrand because maybe he assesses that being a gay conservative isn't really working for trying to appeal to more conservative viewers. So he has to come out as a straight conservative now. And this is his new approach for this stuff.
One of the things he says now in an interview where he explains this is that he was, quote, never wholly at home in the gay lifestyle. Like even adopting the terminology of calling it a lifestyle is also, you know, something straight out of the conversion therapy community. Remember, conversion therapy is banned for use on children in many states. This is so damaging and toxic. He's claiming almost like he only exaggerated. I don't even know how to say this, but he's saying, I'll just read the quote and then we'll try to figure out what it means. He says he, quote, only leaned heavily into being gay in public because it drove liberals crazy to see a handsome, charismatic, intelligent gay man celebrating conservative principles, which is, of course, not what drove people crazy about Milo. But he's almost saying, like, I was gay to trigger the left.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I went gay to own the libs. But that doesn't seem believable at all. Like, that would be full-on commitment, a full-on grift. I don't think that many people would be willing to do that. I don't think Milo would be willing to do it either. I think he's just genuinely gay. And I don't know if he actually has this like different feeling on this stuff now, if he actually feels like he doesn't want to be gay anymore, or if he's just doing this as another grift. But it all just seems very strange to me.
Yeah, the one other thing about it is that now he's putting all of this under the Catholic reawakening that he had, saying that he grew up in the Catholic Church and now he's back. One of the things he would play up before was that he was Jewish, at least half Jewish. And I don't know if that's because he has one Catholic parent and one Jewish parent. You never know like what's true and what's a lie with Milo anyway. Not that it really matters, but it all is very confusing.
What do you think about these people who argue against identity politics using identity politics to make their points? Do you think it's hypocrisy, or do you think they're able to get away with stuff like that because in their eyes, they're just exposing how dumb all this identity politics stuff is on the left?
I think it's just hypocrisy.
They can sort of make an exception with
No, I think it's just hypocrisy. I think the second thing is just way too nuanced, and I think it's just blatant hypocrisy.
Yeah, I feel like this also goes to show that maybe conservatives aren't as woke on the gay rights issue as they would have you believe. Like, I think after gay marriage became the law of the land in 2015, conservatives, Republicans, they tried to rebrand right away and act as if they were never against gay marriage. They were always for gay rights. And you saw this crop of gay Republicans becoming more prominent after that gay marriage decision. But now their stars are fading, and Milo was one of these people, and now
Yep.
he feels as though he has to readjust. So maybe they're not as open to the gay community as was once thought.
No, I would certainly agree with that. And we wish Milo the best. He's welcome on the show anytime to talk about this, and I would be very interested in hearing from him. But he's last time I invited him onto the show, he responded really angrily, saying like that something like, I never cared when they were beating him down, and now I'm just opportunistically trying to interview him, and they're going to come for me next, and then I'll lose my platform. And he was like mad at me. I don't even really understand what it was about, but he declined, is the point, to be on the show.
That's weird, because I know he was turning against fellow conservatives,
Right.
but it's not like you were ever a political ally of his.
No.
So why would he care if people were going after him and you, and like as if you'd be wrapped up in the same thing when you have very different opinions on stuff?
Yeah, I'd have to review exactly what the language was, but it struck me as someone who was just kind of like mad. But I'd be interested in talking to him about this. Idaho is ending its Powerball lottery, and the reason they're ending it is they fear that there's foreign participation in the Powerball lottery. And they were debating in the Idaho legislature whether to continue or not. They sought a change in state law because they were expanding to include Australia this year and Britain next year. But right now, Idaho law only allows people in the state to be played, only allows people in the U.S. and Canada to participate in their lottery. And they are now worried about ways in which so much foreign involvement in the lottery could be problematic, that they also are mad because in Australia, people could win, and then Australia's very anti-gun. And so you could take Idaho's tax money, which is won in the lottery, and it goes to an Australian winner, and they use it to ban guns and do anti-gun stuff. But there are also some Democrats that are concerned about this as well. It's not just Republicans, and just generally concerned that a lot of money could go to countries that they aren't friendly with or may not always be friendly with. Kind of an unusual thing, but interesting that Idaho is doing this. Many states run Powerball lotteries, each with their own rules.
Yeah, I'm okay with Idaho doing away with the Powerball. The justification to me seems a little bit strange. Like, I would be less inclined to get rid of it over this foreign interference concern, and certainly the stuff dealing with Australia and guns. I'd be more interested in getting rid of it because we know that it negatively affects the poor. Sure, with this money, you can raise a lot for schools and public programs, but the people who buy these lottery tickets are often at the lowest of the economic rungs, and so it means that it's sort of regressive in that way, and that's why I don't think we should have the Powerball anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of different concerns around the lottery. Also, because of the people who tend to play the lottery, the people who win the lottery tend to be terrible with money and often end up either getting scammed out of a lot of the money, or they end up losing it by making bad, I don't even necessarily want to call them investment decisions, just financial decisions. That's a whole other sort of question. But there is the question you bring up, Pat, which is clearly a lot of the people playing the lottery shouldn't based on their financial situation. But in theory, a lot of people's lives are improved because of the money states get from the lottery to invest in programs. So is it a net plus? Is it a net minus? I have no idea.
Well, I want money to be raised for these programs and for schools. I just want it to come from the rich primarily. And I don't think too many rich people are playing the lottery. Certainly there are some, but usually it's lower class or middle class people who feel as though if they just buy that winning ticket, then they're going to become millionaires, and overnight they're going to go from owning very little to a lot. And it's that hope that drives people to buying these lottery tickets. But the vast majority of the time, it just leads to people wasting their money, and it adds up to quite a lot over the course of a year.
Yes. I know people who play the Powerball every week. I think it's like $2 twice a week or something like that. It's like $350 for the year. And a lot of people can afford that. And it's sort of like no big deal, and it's just kind of a fun thing. But I also know people who are regularly buying scratch tickets, and they really can't afford it. And it's $5 here, $10 here. And that's really what I worry about more than Powerball.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you can afford it and if you don't mind losing that money, then no harm, no foul, I suppose. But it's not like you can say like, oh well, if you're in a well-off situation, then it's okay to play the Powerball. Whereas if you're a low income, then you're not allowed to buy these tickets. You have to make this blanket statement for everyone, and I think
Right.
that's why it makes sense to just do away with it. But other forms of betting will persist. People will still be able to bet on sports, and maybe just even make sound investments. Wouldn't that be nice?
That
Instead.
would be a whole other ball of wax. That's a big matzo ball hanging out there, as some people like to say. Hey, we predicted this and it's happening. Arkansas Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson signed into law on Tuesday one of the country's most restrictive abortion bans. And this is Senate Bill 6. Abortion would only be allowed in cases where it's necessary to save the life or preserve the health of the fetus or mother. The law allows no exceptions for rape or incest, and performing or attempting to perform an abortion is considered an unclassified felony under this bill. If you're convicted, you could face a prison sentence or a $100,000 fine. Now, of course, this is going to be challenged, but that's the hope, Pat. As we talked about, the whole strategy on abortion was hold off on Merrick Garland so that Trump can appoint Scalia's replacement, which they did, puts in Neil Gorsuch. Then he gets Brett Kavanaugh. Then he gets Amy Covid Barrett. Now he puts 3 people on. And then now you do a really restrictive abortion law in some state. It gets appealed all the way to the Supreme Court. And you may have the most favorable right-wing Supreme Court that could issue a ruling that could, in practice, undo the precedent of Roe v. Wade. So far, this was the game plan, and they're doing it.
Right. This is a real concern. And it really was that last Supreme Court pick that Trump got that could push this over the edge, because I was under the impression that John Roberts, if a case like this ever made it to the Supreme Court, would side with the liberals.
Right.
Because he often does that. And of course, Roe versus Wade has been precedent for 50 years now. So it's kind of hard to overturn that. But you could have Roberts now vote with the liberals, and you could still lose this case because there are 5 other conservatives who may move to get rid of abortions. And, that's just the way it is. I mean, the conservatives have been able to pack the courts over the years. They have total control over the Supreme Court now. The way to fight back, I suppose, would be to codify Roe versus Wade, to pass legislation through Congress and have President Biden sign it into law, this bill that would make it so that abortions would be legal in most cases around the country.
Right.
But of course, that could also get challenged by courts. So yeah, this could be a problem that persists with us for a long time. And it really shouldn't be, because this should be an issue that's settled by now.
And you're absolutely right. And because Republicans know they don't have, at least for the next 2 years, the House, the Senate, or the White House, it's the perfect opportunity to try to legislate through the courts and create an enemy, which is the abortionist liberals, as they often do. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a bunch of other states do the same. I wouldn't be surprised to see multiple appeals to the Supreme Court. Whether the Supreme Court takes the cases obviously remains to be seen. They don't have to. But my expectation, Pat, is this is not going to be the only one of these over the next couple of years.
Do you think if this case or a similar one goes to the Supreme Court that conservatives will do away with Roe versus Wade, or do you think that there could be one more conservative justice, maybe Neil Gorsuch, maybe Brett Kavanaugh, who would side with the liberals and decide not to do that? Do you think that we would have any hope if this does reach the Supreme Court?
I really don't know. I would like to think so, but it's not. This is the court right now is one where it's harder for me to predict where each justice will come down on different issues. Things have gotten sort of wacky, and I really have no idea. I would hope so, but I think there's a real risk of Roe v. Wade effectively being at risk if a case like this gets to the court.
Right. There have been some issues where these conservative justices will surprise us, like with the thing about how gay rights and the thing about how gender identity and sexual orientation will be added to the civil rights bill to make it so that you can't discriminate based on those things. There's been some crossover here and there on certain issues, but we know that abortion is the big one for the right. And I feel like they would hold firm and stick with their conservative principles on that, because they realize that's why they're there in the first place on the court. And, so many evangelicals, so many people around the country want the policy to change on this. And I feel like they may hold the line, unfortunately.
I'm worried that you're right about that. And unfortunately, we have no control over it. All we can do is wait and see. Step 1 is this bill in Arkansas. Step 2 will be the appeal that is already being put together. and onward and upward from there. Okay, tonight I will be streaming Joe Biden's presidential address to the nation in prime time. I will start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Joe Biden going on at 8:02 p.m. Eastern, not 8. If you're going to tune in at 8, Pat, you're going to have to wait 2 minutes to see Joe Biden because it's scheduled for 8:02.
I think the real question is what's going on between 8 and 8:02. Is there like a video package, maybe a big introduction?
That's my question.
I'm going to be tuning in early for sure, not just to see your commentary, but also to see what happens then.
So that'll be tonight, and then we'll have a new show and bonus show tomorrow. 2 more weeks of shows, and then David Pakman show spring break. But before any of that, I'll see everybody tonight on the live stream.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.